Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Call Halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kwadash. Yahweh is the name of the Most High. All right. The name of his son, all right, is Yahweh Shai. He was given a Hebrew name. He was born to Hebrew parents. He had a father and he had a mother, according to the scriptures. Okay, which is why he had a genealogy. Okay, when you read Matthew, the first chapter. Okay, there's no other king. There's no king that came on the planet Earth, all right, and didn't have a birth through a man and a woman. All right, now, a lot of you will say, well, Melchizedek. Well, Melchizedek had neither mother nor father. Okay, we do know that the Messiah Yahushua had a mother and a father. Okay, and the Lord brought him on the planet Earth as prophesied through the loins of David. That's why you read that genealogy in Matthew. Okay, the first chapter. Okay, because he is of the seed and lineage of David, which that's the prophecy. Okay, and it's a lot more understanding. All right, that the Christian church is lacking to teach you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in these times. Instead, what do they teach you? The immaculate, the virgin birth, or hell, or whatever it may be, man. And they don't push the fear of the Lord in those places, man. And without the fear of the Lord, you can't govern yourself as a nation, man. And only bad things will come to you as a nation, which is why when you look at the 2/3, when you look at Christians, all right, they're losing. They're taking more and more spiritual L's. They may have a little prosperity here and there in this world, okay, but that ain't what the Lord is dealing with. The Lord is getting ready to take America down, man. So if you boasting, on any prosperity here, then you don't have an idea of what's going on. Now, the Lord does bless us with, food, raiment, daily bread, and all of those things. Okay, don't get me wrong. But that's not what the Heavenly Father is really dealing with, man, in these times. You did that. That's just a blessing you have to, basically take care of yourself and to move forward. The blessings that the Heavenly Father are blessing his children with in these latter days is far beyond that, man. And that's the understanding of who they are, all right, how they should be conducting themselves. Because when you look at so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, all right, they don't know how to really conduct themselves, man. And they're all caught up into their oppressor. Okay, and that mind frame is pushed on them primarily through their religion. And Christianity has been, all right, worse than crack cocaine, all right, crack rocks to you niggas, man. And you constantly are still getting up in large amounts going to these churches, man. Okay, and it's nothing but a well-kept monument of failure, man. What understanding is coming out of your churches in these latter days, man? Here it is, we're in a time where things need to be explained, man. People should be looking for answers, man. All right, now you go to these churches and you try to, jump on this love kick, and it's running out. You've ran out of love. There's nowhere else to look, Now the world does need the love of the Heavenly Father, but what is love? Love isn't this, jumping up and down and skipping through, the world through chaos and acting like it ain't there, man. And that's what Christianity has you niggas doing. Look at Jay, the producer. Okay, he left being an Israelite to, jump back to Christianity. And what is he doing? Skipping in the name of love, okay? And we call it death. Like you had that nigga R. Kelly say, step in the name of love. Well, Christianity is death in the name of love. Is disguised, all right, under this loving, all-caring religion. But when you go to the history of it, okay, it was given to you by some of the most vile, ruthless, all right, and wicked people on the planet Earth, and the so-called white man. He gave you Christianity, and Christianity is based off of what? Egyptian, Babylonian, Sumerian, okay, Greek, and Roman customs, but it all goes back to Babylon. And you got you niggas, talking about Christianity, but Christianity is basically Egyptology when you study it, man. It's all based upon sun worship, man. Things that our people are not to do. That's why you go to church on Sunday. But the bottom line is that you're not growing spiritually in these churches. You haven't discerned that you shouldn't eat particular things. You haven't discerned how you should treat each other. You haven't discerned how to run a business. That's what the law teaches, man. How to govern, how to treat the earth. Okay, what animals to eat, what animals to not eat. And that's the instruction that the Bible gives, man. And that instruction was given from the Heavenly Father who sits on the throne, Yahweh, through his son Yahweh Shai, through his men, the priest. Okay, and that way, when you read those laws, is the way that he intends on the earth to be ran. But you have a religion telling you that that's null and void. The way and the order that the Heavenly Father is going to eventually set up on the earth, you don't even want to try to do it. And that's the laws. You teach that the laws are done away with. What does this produce? Wild beasts and people who are on a low vibration with no understanding, man. And that's you niggas, man. Church has really ruined you. And you so-called black men, Latino, Native American men who are up in this Christianity madness, you look stupid, man. Especially you black, bald face, black ass niggas, because you don't know what's going on when you go into those churches. You're just following your woman. Okay? You don't have no understanding. You're trying to continue this failing, tarnished legacy of being a Christian church-going man. But you're not growing. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing about the history of the Bible. You don't understand the story of Adam and Eve. It's another thing. You people really don't understand what the Bible's talking about, man. Okay? You don't understand the sons of God. You can't break down Genesis, the first chapter. Okay? You don't understand what's going on, man. And that's because you're up in these churches, man. So this is Isaiah 55:1. Try to read a little bit. I'm driving. I don't recommend any brother do this, but it's a free lane right now. So it says, ho, everyone that thirsted, and you niggas are thirsty, man. That's why the scriptures call you dry bones, okay? You're thirsty. You lack moisture. You lack the water. What are the waters? This truth. Come to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye buy and eat, okay? So ye that have no money, you're in these churches, and you giving all of your life's earnings to these churches that aren't feeding you with the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Now, people get on, the apostles and elders and different camps because they receive donation tithes or whatever. Because tithes in the ancient world, were cattle, cumin, things that you had in abundance, of your flock. But we don't have flocks now. The only thing we have is money. So you both go buy the cumin and the lamb and the things with the money. It only makes sense. They were collecting money at the time of the Messiah. Okay, when the lady gave her last mite. So giving money to where you're being fed, there's nothing wrong with that. But you niggas are being robbed blind. You buying jets and airplanes for these different niggas, and they're teaching you nothing but lies, man. Okay. So you have no money, you're poor, you broke down, and you go and you're giving your all to these dumbass 2-bit pastors, man. Come ye and buy and eat, yea, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. There you go. Okay, this word is given freely, and you don't have to give your money. Okay, the word is still gonna go out. Okay, when you look on the internet, what do you see day and night? Videos, understanding of what's going on, prophecies, okay, character building, okay, man up. All of these videos are the knowledge and wisdom and understanding that are coming out of these scriptures, man. And when you go into the churches, they're not uplifting the true image of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, what these scriptures are talking about, man. They're bullshitting and playing games, man. And it's time for you to grow up, because you'll hear me say bullshit and you'll go crazy and nothing that I say is credible. But you got a guy, all right, like Apostle Geno Jennings, okay, who will tell you that you can eat a catfish, you can eat shrimp, and he's heralded as this great man who tells you the mark of the beast, he don't know what it is. Just sitting up there getting all of that money and playing all of them damn games, but promoting you into further and further sin, which is why you're in this condition in the first place. Is another thing. Why are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in this low state? Why has what happened to you been able to happen? Where can you get the understanding of that at? Christianity acts like none of that exists. Oh, just love them. Love. No, don't come to no understanding. Okay? Because you love the devil. You tell him the truth. You going down. Okay? But that love is speaking amongst people of your nation, man. Okay? And you niggas don't have any sort of, decor. You don't have any sort of standard in which things you won't do to each other. You promote adultery amongst each other. You do all sorts of vile and wicked things in these churches, man. Meanwhile, it's love the so-called white man. And there's never nothing about the Chinese or the nobody else, the Indian. It's only the so-called white man that you'll jump up and promote this all loving vibration that you don't push. You don't really keep that. It says, wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread? Bread, all right, wine, milk, all of these things can be likened unto the scriptures because they are needed and they do benefit man, all right, in righteousness if they're used in their right way. But the so-called white man has come and used wine, milk, okay, bread, and defile those things, man. But in their righteous form, in their right order, these things are beneficial to man and they can be likened unto wisdom, okay? Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfied not? Okay? It's time for you niggas to leave the church, man. Okay? And we got to say it like that because the times are harsh. Okay? We got to think the Lord flooded the whole earth. So don't come to me with this, well, your language is too rough. Okay, meanwhile, you people are dying at large amounts. You're diseased. You have no control over your children. Okay, your diets are the worst. Okay, you're sitting up. You feminist. You're homosexuals. I'm talking about you Israelites. You're into every other philosophy on the planet Earth, and it's bringing you to the very bottom. And you have no reason why. You don't know why. You're being led. You go into these Black Lives Matter rallies, which are set up by your enemy, and you have no understanding. You're marching for a color, a legacy that is just destructive and not even that has nothing to do with your good black culture. Okay? So wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, going to school, paying for all this money for college, okay, and being proud in it? You understand you may have to do that in particular situations, but you're proud in that knowledge that you get from the so-called white man, which is rebellion against the Heavenly Father, man. Okay? And your labor for that which satisfieth not. Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your soul delight itself in fatness. And that's what's being spread out here throughout the four corners of the earth, on the highways and the byways, doing these videos. The fatness and true understanding of what the Lord is all about, and is way more interesting and deeper and beneficial to you than what you're getting in those churches. The churches are not giving you the truth of what the Bible's talking about. Christianity is a lie that has nothing to do with the Bible. Jesus Christ is not the Messiah of the Bible. Okay? And you have to let it go. It's time for you niggas to let go of what's destroying you. Oh, go to church. Oh, yeah, making dinner plates and kikiing and laughing. Your children are rebellious and nasty freaks. Okay, you're sick. You're through. Okay, which we're sick too. But we have the Holy Spirit and the wherewithal to get understanding to try to help ourselves. You don't even know what to do. The scriptures tell you about the herbs, the oils. Okay, the scriptures you should be forwarded. Okay, you should be elevated. Okay, and we've been elevated through the Holy Spirit, man. It says, incline your ear and come unto me. Here and your soul shall live. Here and your soul shall live. Okay, you better listen to what the men of the Lord are saying, man. Okay, and the men of the Lord ain't gonna come, all right, looking like your everyday, all right, nice guy in America with the Bluetooth, the suit, the zoot suit, the suit that go all the way down to the knees, man, the jacket, and that's what you guys are looking for in a leader, man. But like the Lord said with John the Baptist, what the hell did you come to see, man? Okay, what came you to see when you came to the wilderness to see John the Baptist? When you come to see a prophet, you better be look at things through the spirit and power, and you niggas do not know how to discern the spirit. You're so caught up in the flesh and what the so-called white man has given you, and the images that he's giving you of what a man is, and the images that he's giving you of what a woman is. They're all anti-Messiah. They're all against the order the Lord set up. Get your ass out of these different philosophies and religions, man, and come back to who you really are. Repent. Repentance is what the Heavenly Father is calling his people to do, of the elect, all right? Incline your ear and come unto me, and your soul shall live, and your ear is inclined to the words of the Heavenly Father through his prophets, okay? Through his men. Yes, he has his men that he set up, okay? And I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. And that's what we're fighting for, man. Okay? That's ultimately, you know, we're fighting for the mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and a commander to the people. And that's David, the beloved. And that falls down upon his tabernacle, the 144,000. They're given for a witness. All right. They are the priest and the leaders and the commanders of the people. They are to teach you what is unclean and what is clean. They're to teach you how to conduct yourself as a man, how women should be acting. All of these things are contained and given to you through your leaders. But you want to go to these churches and listen to this bullshit religion, and you got white Jesus in the background baptizing. You know, it don't make no sense. It's a very, very off and wicked vibration that you're gaining from these different philosophies. The only philosophy you need to be coming back to, all right, is this one, which is going to lead to your mercies. Okay? So, you know, through the spirit, that's all I had. You know, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakak Wadash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.
Bolivian ambassador to the United Nations, indeed the man who called today's Security Council meeting. Let's talk to him. He's made the time to be with us. Hi, thank you for your time. Tell us more about your concerns, which led you to call that meeting.
Well, thank you very much. Our main concern is that due to the threats that the United States is imposing on this situation, and the threat to use force in a unilateral action, that goes against the United Nations Charter. And also we are concerned about the possibility of escalation, and that this could go out of control, and we might end up with a wider conflict than the one that's already been suffered in Syria.
And that's a serious concern. You think it is possible, yeah?
Well, I mean, we believe that the United Nations Charter and its principles should guide the resolution of any conflict or problem. The problem that we are facing is that the United States is willing to go against the Charter. And we believe that the UN system as a whole, not just the Security Council, but the UN system, should do its best in upholding the principles of the UN Charter. That's why we convened the meeting that we had today, and we just been informed that tomorrow we will have another open meeting regarding the threats that the United States has sent against not just Syria in this case, but against the whole UN system.
Your colleague, the US envoy to the UN, Nikki Haley, just a few days ago said that the, quote, Security Council has proved itself to be useless. What's your assessment of her comments on it?
Well, I think that the Security Council has a lot of problems. I think it has a lot of also challenges. We can talk about the need of reform of the Security Council. We can talk about the privilege that the permanent members of the Security Council have, that we think that we believe that should be changed. But at this particular moment, I think the main challenge that the Security Council has is to unite and to create an independent mechanism in order to investigate the alleged chemical attacks. But even if that doesn't work, that doesn't allow the United States to take actions by its own. So whatever happens, if the United States takes a unilateral action, it will be a violation of international law. And the UN system should not, of course, accept that. And as I said, it will not be an attack against Syria, but also an attack against the whole United Nations system.
And as it stands tonight, your thoughts about the US Defense Secretary saying that America has the right to carry out preemptive strikes against Assad's forces to defend its own troops. That's just a pretext to go in, is it?
It is a pretext. It is a pretext, and right now we have what we have. The information we have from the United Nations is that there is no conclusive investigation on the chemical attack. First of all, second, that the only body, the only organ in the international system that could approve the use of force is the Security Council. Before they do anything, they need to have an approval, an authorization by the Security Council. Otherwise, it is of course a violation of international law. The problem is that the United States believes and acts as it would be as it is above any law. They believe that they have their own rules, and it is not the case. And Bolivia, as member of Security Council, has a responsibility to represent the whole membership of the Council, 193 countries. Those 15 members in the Council represent the wider membership. And the first responsibility that we have is to uphold the purposes and the principles of the United Nations Charter. And any unilateral action goes against those purposes and principles.
Sasha Laurenti, Bolivia's ambassador to the United Nations, thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Chad Booksam with Alternative Media Television. This is a major update. We have news of bombs going off in an Iranian base in southern Syria, Aleppo. Now, I want to connect something for you guys, okay? Because what's happening right now is so dangerous and so drastic. Israel has just announced, they just came out with this new report, updated report, that an Iranian drone launched from Syria that flew over Israel not too long ago was armed. They came out with this report. Now we're hearing from witnesses on the ground that an Iranian base has been attacked, bombs going off, whether it was airstrikes or some other kind of explosive set within this facility, within this base, multiple dead and mostly Iranian. Iran has been attacked. Israel does not broadcast what they're going to do. Israel never tells the truth. Now, all news outlets, every news outlet, right now there's a major, people have to understand this, there's a major media blackout. There's a major propaganda war. That's why it's up to alternative news to look at all the reports and conclude using critical thinking and facts. And what we see happening right now, especially after Benjamin Netanyahu just came out and stated that the Iranian drone launched from Syria to fly over Israel was armed. Now we have an attack at Iranian base in Syria. Only leads to one thing. This is a World War III event happening in the Middle East, because you have Russia, obviously. And look what happened last night with Russia. They were assisting the Bashar al-Assad government with anti-aircraft missiles. They have stated that they shot down U.S. missiles. They were attacking U.S. missiles that were flying in. Now, the Pentagon is denying it. Oh, the deep state is denying it? Really, the deep state is denying it? They're the ones telling us that they have proof of chemical weapons in Syria being used by the Bashar al-Assad government. But yet they don't show the proof, yet the missiles flew. Right? But we have Russia, who provided a lot of the military equipment for the Bashar al-Assad government and equipped them with this missile defense system, shooting down these missiles. Russia was attacking back against these strikes by the supposed alliance between the US, the UK, and France. Now we have Israel, who did the first bombardment within the first 24 hours, as first reported here on AMTV, against Syria. Now we have, again, Israel reporting this, saying that Iran has been flying drones, armed drones, basically telegraphing to their people that Iran is trying to attack. And then moments later, subsequently, bombs go off in an Iranian base in southern Syria. What does this tell you? And then the mainstream media, they hide it. They don't tell the truth. And what really gets to me is that a lot of people, when they tune in here and we state and we connect the dots and back them up by facts, they go on CNN or MSNBC or Google looking for this. You're not going to see it. There is a total psychological warfare going on right now. There's a total media blackout, and most of it is propaganda. Critical thinking. Think about what's occurring. Obviously, this is Israel's opportunity to take out Bashar al-Assad. Benjamin Netanyahu, I guarantee you, isn't going to leave office because he's been dying to take out Iran. Just look at what he said. Since the last 10 years, he's stated this. This is his whole passion. This is his reason for living, is to take out Iran. And we're having multiple explosions, witnesses on the ground, regardless if it's airstrikes, regardless of where it came from, bombs going off on an Iranian base in southern Syria, Aleppo, with multiple Iranians dead. Now, we have Russia in a situation where we have more U.S. warships coming to the Syrian coast. You already have Russian warships in the same area. You had Russia assisting the Bashar al-Assad government to shoot down missiles coming in from the U.S. and the allies. We need to be prepared. We need to be ready. This is a World War III event. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the people who always wait to the last minute and they just go with the herd. Don't listen to these people. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you're ready to survive in any case of an emergency. Now, I don't care, again, we've stated this, you don't have to get it from us, but if you want to support the truth, if you want to support alternative news, if you want to help us fight back against all this propaganda, we need your support because we don't have no billion-dollar backers. It's just us, and we're only supported by you. We have food storage. We have bug-out bags, and people have been asking, what's a bug-out bag? Bug-out bag has everything you need to last for days in case of an emergency. It has food, rations, water, utilities, temporary shelter, Swiss Army knives, radios, flashlights, everything that is placed in the one bag that you just grab it and you just go. We have this on amtvmedia.com. Click the link below and go to our store. We also have 20% off our food storage. We have 30-day supplies, but we have 20% off our 60-day food storage. This is essential, no matter what they say, no matter what all the naysayers and the cynics who think nothing could ever happen, the ones who said that Trump wouldn't do anything, the ones who said there never could be war, that there never could be death, that military strikes are impossible, the ones who always go with the herd are wrong. Don't listen to them. Be your own person and think critically. Go and get water, go and get food storage, support alternative news, and go to our store, click the link below, and make sure you're prepared to survive. Share this video everywhere. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Thumb it up. Again, we need your support. Due to the censorship, due to the media blackout, don't listen to the mainstream media. They're lying. Tune in here. And again, my name is Chad Booksam, and I'll be back with another update on, unfortunately, this World War III playing field that we're living on right now. God bless.
Now, as Russia's foreign minister has claimed that the International Chemical Weapons Watchdog, the OPCW, may have misidentified the type of nerve agent used against the Skripals in England last month. More details on that now from correspondent Hanisha Sethi. Hi there. So potentially another chapter opens in this case.
Yeah, so let's first get up to speed with the findings of the results from the OPCW, who delivered their analysis on the chemical attack on the Skripals. Now, in this report, the OPCW confirmed the composition of the nerve agent was in line with the findings of the United Kingdom, who say that the chemical used to poison Yulia and Sergei Skripal was said to be Novichok, a type of nerve agent produced by the Soviet Union. They were unable to specify the origin of that. But during the analysis, the OPCW gave samples of the agent to 4 designated laboratories, and Russia has contacted one of these designated labs. Now, a Swiss laboratory has allegedly said that there were traces of another nerve agent found in the sample it was given, a toxin called BZ. Now, it turns out that these findings were excluded from the report by the OPCW. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has been speaking on these findings.
The analysis is more consistent with the use of the poisonous substance BZ. None of these facts, and nothing at all about BZ, was mentioned in the final OPCW report, which was presented to its executive board. We request that the OPCW explain why such information and the conclusion of the Spies laboratory was omitted from the final report.
So the toxin is called BZ. It's a white crystalline powder, slightly soluble in water, and is a nerve agent, so extremely harmful. The toxin was never produced in Russia or in the Soviet Union. However, the BZ nerve agent was developed by the US Army in the 1950s. Now, these findings were not produced in the report published by the OPCW. They were left out, or rather not taken into consideration at all. Even if the substance is Novichok, however, the Russian Foreign Ministry has said that about 20 countries can produce this chemical. And some chemists have even questioned the potency of the nerve agent Novichok as well, saying its consequences could have been much worse.
Shalom, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to our elders who rule great news so well. And shalom to all you Akim pushing this truth with sincerity. May you endure until the end. Shalom. This just came out about 38 minutes ago. It's April 19, 2018, and it's about 5 to 10, or 5 to 11 o'clock. So it came out about 10:30 a.m. And what they're saying is that they said that America is the one that, pretty much they're saying America is guilty of gassing or poisoning that Russian spy. Okay, which Russia clearly denied because they had him in prison, and they said if they wanted to kill him, they would have killed him in the prison, and nobody would have heard about it. Also, they said if they would have killed him, they wouldn't have brought all the attention upon their own head. Why would they do that? All right. So there's many other ways they could have went about this if it was Russia, but it's America stirring up a fight. All right. This Edomite is fighting Edomites. This Edomite is they call it his whole system is collapsing on itself. All right, and his shame is being exposed. This is Obadiah verse 3. I'll do 2, verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen; thou art greatly despised. And the Edomite is the smallest. They're the minority of all the races. They produce the least children, offspring. But also, they're despised. And as you can see, America being the whore that rides the beast. Of course, the whole beast goes back to Edomites. But America is really that main whore that everybody's starting to despise. But once again, it always goes back to Esau, Edom. Verse 3, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? And that's another thing that Esau does, but majority of American Edomites, where they're saying, who could bring us down? Who could destroy great America? Who could destroy that golden city? So then with that, they're being destroyed right now. Their shame is being poured on their head like hot coals. And soon there's going to actually be fire rain down on top of their heads. via ICBM, the one that sent them was Yahweh Ba'Sham Yahushai. Because in your heart, your mind, you've been deceived. You think you're the greatest country ever. You think you're so powerful, no one could knock you down. But you're about to get knocked the fuck out. This is verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. Which means, because ever since they put their ship on the moon, that's been the sign of their downfall ever since then. But also, it says in the beginning of the verse, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. They have eagle symbolism everywhere throughout the Edomite countries. But also, if you do the research on the eagle is a very filthy creature. They're actually almost like vultures. They eat off dying carcasses, dead carcasses, roadkill. They eat a lot of the death. They're an animal of death, and that's what Esau is. Edom is a animal of death. They're a beast that brings death to everywhere they go. Just like if you let a dog sit in the same spot, you chain him to a little 4-foot chain, let him run around in a circle, he'll kill all that grass right there. That's how Esau is. Esau is a destructive creature. He was designed to destroy, in fact, until Yahweh Ba'Sham Yahushai raises up and destroys him. What we're seeing is happening right now. Every day, like an onion, every day one layer is removed. One layer is removed every day. So yesterday they had the Syria getting hit on April 13th, but now today this information comes out that the chemical that they used in the poisoning of the Russian spy was actually produced in America. They said 20 countries could produce it, but I guarantee you that those 20 countries are associated to America's rule. It says here, verse 7 of Obadiah, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound unto thee. There is none understanding in him. And that's what Esau don't get it. Esau don't get it. This is his finish. He thinks he could scratch and fight his way out. But you can't, Esau. You're done. You're actually being dissolved right now, piece by piece. Soon it's going to be like you never even existed. That's going to be a beautiful thing. To get rid of such a wicked, wicked beast. Because the earth really can't have peace until this beast is put out of place. Because as long as this beast has the ability to rule, all he's going to do is bring destruction. And it's going to increase. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. It's not going to get better. America is not going to become any kinder, any nicer, any wealthier. In fact, it's going to go deeper into poverty because guess what? War causes it costs money. And if you look in the history of World War I, World War II, or any other war, it takes a lot of money to support the war. And in World War, I believe it was World War II, they started confiscating gold from people. And that was supposedly to fund the war. Eventually, everyone began working government jobs trying to produce weapons and needs of military to, they're essentials to keep them fighting. That's why as soon as this World War III kicks in America, they're going to initiate the draft. And it's going to come very quickly. And if you go on the draft, you're going to have to take that RFID chip. If you don't take the chip, if you don't take the draft, avoiding the chip, they require you to go to prison. And guess what they're going to do in the prisons? They're going to chip you. So this devil is running out of time, and he knows it. And he's squirming as hard as he could to get out of this end time judgment, but he can't escape it. But at the same time, he's going to try to kill as many of you Israelites as he can. Verse 8, shall I not in that they, saith Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau. So out of the whole power system, the whole power structure of Esau, the Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai is removing the wisdom out of them. They're getting so sloppy that everybody knows that they're the ones doing this shit. Everybody knows that the chemicals attack that was happening in Syria, it was America. So they're being destroyed from the inside out. It's a beautiful thing. Verse 9, and thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. I'm going to read that again. And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. So every single Edomite, every person whose bloodline goes back to Edom, Esau, you're going to be destroyed by slaughter. Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai hates you in your nation, and he's going to destroy you and kill you to where there is not one remaining, because he don't want you to come back through reincarnation. So he's going to kill everything, to the old, the wise, the woman, to the young, and the baby. And he says why. He's not an unjust power. He tells you why he's going to do it. This is verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Who is Jacob today? The so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian. Because of the violence against the children of Israel, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel, so all his offspring are the children of Israel. You have committed violent acts against us. You still commit violent acts against us. And now your judgment is at hand. And you're going to pay. You're going to pay dearly. You're going to pay so much that you can't afford it, and you're going to become extinct. I'm going to read that again, verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Shame shall cover thee. So shame is covering them. They're being exposed to be the liar and the devil and the deceiver that they are. But also, they're going to be destroyed. Till not one left. Not one Edomite is in existence. And honestly, all Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai has to do is kill all the Edomite men. And the women could be used for procreation of the Israelite nation. Because once that woman dies, if she produces Israelite seed through the man's seed, Israelite children through the man's seed, now once that woman dies, that Edomite woman doesn't give off no more Edomite children. She has to have an Edomite man planting the seed in her womb to produce Edomite children. So a lot of you so-called white women are going to go into slavery as sex slaves. And you men are going to die. You women are going to die. The children are going to die. And there's nothing you could do about it. There's no way you could buy your way out of it. You cannot pay us back for what you've done. The only thing that you could do is die. And that's according to the Bible, because it said not one should remain. There should not one remain. And that's the word of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. All praise and glory to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. And shalom to all you Akim that is pushing this sincerely. Shalom.
Shalom, Akim. Shalom. Kahala Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai Ba'asham Rakakadash. All praise and glory be to the Most High. His name is Yahweh. In the name of His Son. His name is Yahushai. In the name of the Holy Spirit. I want to send double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. I want to send much peace, love, and salutations to the Akim out there pushing the word in sincerity and truth. This is a part 2 historical follow-up to the live show that me and the brother Raquari Quam did, talking about Iran or Persia versus the U.S. or Esau. Okay, the controlling power of the United States in the West is the biblical Edomites. Okay, right now there's a lot going on in the news concerning this landmass right here, Syria, centered around its capital, Damascus. Now, within this country, there's several nations vying and jockeying for positions, namely the state of Israel you see here, Syria, of course, Turkey, you have Russia involved, you have the United States involved, you have France and the UK involved. And then one of the people that is big to the state of Israel, but in the mainstream media, they mention sometimes, but not often, is the nation of Iran. And what I wanted to touch on today is some of the history of Iran and how the Persians, which that's the people of Iran are Persians, you know, Elamites. They come from Elam, okay, as far as a biblical nation, okay. And basically what I want to go into is how Persia and Esau have a long history of quarreling and battling through time. And I wanted to touch on some of their quarrels and battles in what we consider biblical times. Now, to me, biblical times is all time, because the Bible talks about all periods of time, even now. So we're in biblical times now. But just for the sake of this teaching lesson, we're going to go into what historians consider ancient biblical time. I wanted to start out just looking at this map so brothers can familiarize themselves as I'm talking about this landmass. We have to always understand that these borders that have been created by the so-called white man do not constitute ancient borders and ancient lands, but in this general vicinity, the Persian Empire has always controlled and ran. Now, at its height, they began to expand and take over other regions. We understand and note Persia during the reign of Cyrus. Okay, underneath Cyrus, when you read in the scripture, Cyrus is mentioned several times. He took down the Medes. All right, and he married into them. Matter of fact, when you go to the beginning of this, it says development of empire, approximately 1000 BCE. Okay, Indo-European tribes from Central Asia migrate to Iranian plateau. All right, skip forward. It's talking about the land, how it was a very dry land, and then it leads into the Persian ruling family, and basically the height of the Persian Empire, which is called the Achaemenid Empire. It says they intermarried with the Medes to establish power and legitimize the bloodline for rule. This is another Japhetic family, the Medes. It says Cyrus the Great, child of a Persian and Mede union, in 550 BCE, captured the king, who was his father-in-law, and united the Persians and the Medes. Okay, he was able to defeat the Medes. He unite Persia. He took Lydia, the Greek city-states in Anatolia, Afghanistan, Mesopotamia, Palestine, from the Aegean Sea in west to Hindu Kush mountains in the east. Okay, so underneath Cyrus and then underneath Darius, this empire expanded and was able to get, a very large piece of land. Now, we're here talking about 486 BC is what I want to hinge around, because I want to touch on this period of time, which is mentioned in the book of Esther, which is, also mentioned in the book of Nehemiah, Ezra. Okay. And I want to go in during the time of Xerxes. Now, Xerxes came after Cyrus and Darius. Okay. Now, when you read here, it says Ahasuerus or Xerxes, and I'm going to just say Xerxes. Whenever you see this right here, this is the name. I'm just going to say Xerxes. Okay. 846 BC, it says he succeeds Darius as king of Persia. It says others take 485 BC as the year of the ascension to the throne. He reigns until 464 BC. During his reign, he extends the Persian Empire to Macedonia, and Libya, as far as the Caucasus Mountains and the Arabian Desert. So you see how far we talked about the Hindu Kush Mountains underneath Cyrus, and they went all the way up into Macedonia, all these different islands here, and they fought and were battled back. When you get into this mainland of Greece right here, it was always a contentious area for Persia to reach and to control, because Persia wanted to control these lands because they wanted to control the waters. Even to this day, Iran, their strongest part of their military is their navy. Me and the brother Raquari Kwon was looking at that yesterday. And so they've always wanted to control waters, be able to come underneath here, this whole Arabian Peninsula area here, throughout the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. Even to this day, Iran has several ports. Hold on just 1 second, Akim. Alright, Slaki, man. You know how boys are. But anyway, so underneath Darius, this Persian Empire had extended pretty far. Now, we understand when we read during the time of Artaxerxes, you can read about how big the empire was, man. I'm going to read this in the editions of the Book of Esther and the Apocrypha in the 16 chapters. In the 16th chapter, to get a backdrop, we'll revisit this map so brothers can kind of keep it on the cap, these lands that we were talking about, and then lead into some of the things that was happening during that time and really never ceased even unto this day. Esther chapter 16 verse 1, it says, "The great king Xerxes unto the princes and governors of 107 and 20 provinces from India unto Ethiopia, and unto all our faithful subjects, greetings." So all of these people were faithful subjects unto Xerxes at that time, from India all the way to Ethiopia, man. So that's a lot of land to control. And you see here, you see Armenia, the land of Media, okay? Here's that land of Lydia that they was talking about. Here's Libya, and Libya is mentioned in Ezekiel 38, along with Ethiopia. All these guys used to be serious trade partners and dealt with each other. When you read in the book of Jeremiah, where it talks about the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight, in secular history, when you go back, when you read Jeremiah 51 and 28, "Prepare against her the nations of the kings of the Medes and the captains thereof and all the rulers thereof and all the lands of his dominion. And the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their hosts. Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burnt her dwelling places, and her bars are broken." When you go back and you study how Babylon just laid down for Persia, because at that time, Cyrus, man, was an extremely intimidating power. And so all of these lands became vassal states and vassal provinces to Persia. And then, I just pulled this right here just to show y'all the area of Carmenia. We read about Carmenia in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, how it talks about the dragons that was going to come out of Carmenia. Those are all Iranian Persians. This is still, you see India, this is all that land of Iran. See that? See that? Iran, and right here is India. Okay? You see? Here's that whole area right here. Boom. Okay? You can see Carmenia right here. See that? That's nothing but a province of Persia. Okay? Now, going back into the Esther chapter 16 verse 2, it says, "Many, the more often they are honored with the great bounty of their gracious princes, and the more proud they are waxen, and endeavor to hurt not our subjects only, but not being able to bear abundance, do take in hand to practice also against those that do them good. and to take not only thankfulness away from among men, but also lift it up with the glorious words of lewd persons that were never good. They think to escape the justice of the Most High, that seeth all things and hateth evil. Oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs have caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and have enwrapped them in remediless calamities, beguiling with the falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition the innocency and the goodness of princes. Now we're talking about the courts of kings, and how basically over the course of time the Persians was known for allowing the different nations that they conquered to continue their own personal religious cultures and rites. They would set up puppet kings that were friendly to the Persian Empire, and they used these relationships to manage the empire to get all of the taxes that they need. But sometimes you will have these nations come together and form coups up against the Persian Empire. Now, during the time that Xerxes was on the scene with Esther, and you had Haman the Agagite, who was an Edomite, he was an Amalekite. That word Agag, which brothers go into all the time, when you go into that word Agag, that goes back to an Amalekite king. Now, these different kings and families at this time were dwelling in Macedonia. We can read about this in history, and we're going to get a little bit of this. And basically, so it was always tumultuous times. When Haman, I'm gonna read the rest of this, and what you're gonna get is that Haman conspired to have basically all the Jews killed, man, because the Persians at that time had a thing where if a group of people were committing treason, they would just eliminate you, man. It wasn't like they would just take the leaders and kill them, and so they would just get rid in all the provinces that the Jews were spread out upon at this time. Because you got to realize that after that, here's Babylonia. See, over here, right here is the land of Israel, Tyre. We had been scattered and taken into Babylon, spread all into these different areas by the Babylonian Empire, and even more so during the time of the Persians. Now you had Jews all up and in and around these areas that if that decree that Haman wanted to go out, all the Jews would be eliminated in all the different provinces. Okay, killed, massive slaughter. Okay, so check this. When you go back to Ezra 16, Lord willing, y'all following me, man. Go back to the verse 6. It says, beguiling with their falsehood and deceit with their lewd disposition, the innocency and goodness of princes. Now ye may see this as we have declared, not so much by ancient histories as ye may, if you search what have been wickedly done of late through the pestilent behavior of them that are unworthy placed in authority. We must take care for the time to come, that our kingdom may be quiet and peaceable for all men, both by changing our purposes and always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding. You see, the writer of this had to be mindful of who's in rulership. Okay, it says and always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding. For Ammon, now this word Ammon is the same word as Haman when you read it in the conventional Bible. For Ammon, a Macedonian, the son of Amadatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us, has so far forth obtained the favor that we show toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all the next person unto the king, because he had got all the way up to being the vice regent, so to speak, man. He was next, second in command to the king in that province that he was in. It says, but he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life. having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction, as well of this is Mordecai, Mardochus, who saved our life and continually procured our good, as also of blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom, with our whole nation. For by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians. Okay? So you always had the Edomites trying to conspire to have the Israelites taken out, so the Edomites could take control of the land of Israel and all the regions round about. Okay? Now, so there was believed during this time. It was, when you go back and read the book of Esther, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. When you go back and read, you see that basically Esther and Mordecai were able to convince the king that basically Haman was being malicious. Okay, verse 15, it says, "But we find that the Jews, whom this wicked wretch hath delivered to utter destruction, are no evildoers, but live by most just laws, and that they be children of the Most High and Most Mighty, living power, who have ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner. Therefore ye shall do well not to put in execution the letter sent unto you by Haman, the son of Amadatha." Okay? For he that was the worker of these is hanged at the gates of Susa with his family, the Most High, who ruleth all things, speedily rendering vengeance unto him according to his deserts. Okay, so now we read that that's what befell Haman, and what I want to touch on is there was a lot going on during the time of Haman. Now, when you look at the Haman the Agagite, when you look here, I'm on Wikipedia, Haman the Agagite, it says it's the main antagonist in the book of Esther, who according to the Hebrew Bible was a vizier in the Persian Empire under King Xerxes. I can never say this word, so I'm just going to say Xerxes, traditionally identified as Xerxes. It says his name indicates Haman was a descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites, a people who were wiped out in certain areas by King Saul and David. All right. So when you read here, you see that he was born in 520 BCE and he died in 475 BCE. All right. So during this period of time, you had Xerxes on the throne, but you had Alexander the First. Philhellene was the leader of Macedon at this time. All right. So this is and this is not Alexander the Great. This is like his great grandfather or something like that. Okay, great grandfather. I would have to look at the line and see. Okay. When you look at this, you see that his reign was from 498 to 454 BC. All right. Now let's see what was going on during the time of his reign. It says Alexander the First was the ruler of ancient kingdom of Macedon from 498 BC until his death in 454. All right. It talks about he was succeeded by his son Alcetus II. Alexander was the son of Amenitus the First and Queen Eurydice. He had a sister named Gygia. He gave his sister for marriage to the Persian general Barbarus. You see how marriages make unions in nations? Okay. He said he gave his sister for marriage to the Persian general in the late 6th century BC, who was in Macedon at the time, in order to stop him from searching for Persian soldiers who had been killed by Alexander's men following his commands. All right, you see how these wars is going on already between Macedon and Persia? There's these tensions already going on in the backdrop of Haman the Agagite being the vizier to Xerxes, man. These things were already kind of going on, bro. See, because you got to see when he was in office, 483 BC through 475. That's just off the backdrop of these things happening. So let's read. It says Alexander the First came to the throne during the era of the kingdom's vassalage at the hand of the Achaemenid Persia, dating back to the time of his father Amenitis the First. Although Macedon retained a broad scope of autonomy, I mean they doing their own thing. It says in 492 BC, it was made to a fully subordinate part of the Persian kingdom by Mardonius's campaign. Okay, and you can go and look him up and see his rank within the Persian Empire. Mardonius was a leading Persian military commander during the Persian Wars with Greece. Okay, and that's what I'm leading into. It says, at the time, Alexander was on the nominal Macedonian throne. Alexander further acted as a representative of the Persian governor Mardonius during peace negotiations after the Persian defeat at the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC. See how we all the way up at 480 BC? By this time, Haman is in Xerxes' court, and you best believe that Haman was able to do that because of the peace treaties that was formed by these different marriages, man. Okay, so you had Esau being able to sneak up in there. Now, when you go over the history of Macedon, oh boy, get you a cup of coffee, because Esau, I guarantee you, he has all those scrolls. How he was able to marry up in there, and how he was able to slowly sneak his way up in there, man, and develop, man. They have what was called the Greek Dark Ages. You can read about the Dorians, the ancient Dorians, and go into all that history if you want to. Okay, but we're gonna stick right here. It says here, in the later events, Herodotus several times mentions Alexander as a man who is on Xerxes' side and follows the assigned tasks. From the time of Mardonius' conquest of Macedon, Alexander the First is referred to as a hyparchos, okay, by Herodotus, meaning a subordinate governor. Despite his cooperation with Persia, Alexander the First frequently gave supplies and advice to the Greek city-states and warned them of Mardonius' plans before the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC. For example, Alexander I warned the Greeks in the temple in Tempe to leave before the arrival of Xerxes' troops, as well as notified them of an alternative route into Thessaly through Upper Macedonia. After the defeat in Plataea, the Persian army under the command of Artabachus tried to retreat all the way back to Asia Minor. Most of the 43,000 survivors were attacked and killed by the forces of Alexander at the estuary of the Citramon River. Alexander eventually regained Macedonian independence after the end of the Persian Wars. Okay? That's pretty much the point on that. So basically, you can see how during this time you had Macedonia and Persia was warring all throughout the time after that Haman was able to ascend into the seat that he was at alongside of Xerxes. And that played into the hand for the sake of the nation of Israel. Because if they were still in good standings, it might have been to the fact that we would have got wiped out under the decree of Haman, man. But the Most High put it into the minds of the leaders of all these different nations to war and fight and basically change the game. And we read about whenever the game was changed, It was bloody for the Edomites all throughout the Persian Empire, man. Check this. We're going to read this in the book of Esther, the 9th chapter. It's a lot to read, but I'm going to try to read quickly and make points as I go. Okay, so Lord willing, you brothers can stick with me. Okay, this is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 1. It says, now, in the 12th month, that is the month Adar. All right, so the last month of the Hebrew calendar is Adar. Okay, for the young Akim. It says, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put to execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned into the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. Okay, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king of King Xerxes. Okay, so they went through all throughout the provinces, all right, where we were scattered, right, of King Xerxes, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants, and the deputies, and the officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces. For this man, Mordecai, waxed greater and greater. And that's why, we always make this argument that the book of Esther could have been easily called the book of Mordecai. Okay. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan, the palace, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men. All right. And in Parsandatha, and in Dalphon, and in Alphatha, and in Poratha, and in Adalia, in Aridatha, in Parmashta, in Arishai, in Aridai, in Vajezatha, and the 10 sons of Haman, and the son of Hamedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid not their hands. Why? Because the Persians probably took the spoil, okay? They didn't let them have all the riches, but they was like, you can remove all these people out of their houses. A decree had went out. So all these lands, they was getting murked. Now, when you look, I just wanted just to show you guys, we got the land of Israel and everything over here. But look, Jake was all the way over here in Susa. This is that area where that decree had went out, man. All right, so basically, this is where basically Esther was taken, and probably they had a big palace there, and the Jews was set up here, and you know what I mean? Everything like that. Her family, everything like that. When you make these marriages, you make family ties, you move people around. So in all these different lands, they were murking the Amalekites and the different Edomite families that were associated with Haman. Really, shoot, just anybody in those provinces. So listen, you reading all of this. Now check this in verse 11. It says, on that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan, the palace, was brought before the king. And the king said to Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan, the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan that they hang Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also in the month of Adar, and slew 300 men in Shushan, both on the prey they laid not their hands. Okay, so they didn't take none of their stuff. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves, but the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives and had rest from their enemies and slew their foes 75,000. But they laid not their hands on their prey. And on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and sending portions one to another. All right, so basically it was a slaughter of the Amalekites and the Edomites in all these different provinces in Persia, man, and taking them out of places of rank. All right, and the Jews was probably put into certain positions of rank in their stead. So underneath the Persian Empire, basically the nation of Israel was able to kind of clap back and regain, a lot of footholds, in the world. Okay, it says, and Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the provinces of the king Xerxes, both nigh and far. All right, it says to establish this among them that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly. So you have Purim being instituted. It says, and as these days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning to a good day, that they should make them days of feast and joy, and of sending portions to one another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, as Mordecai had written unto them. And y'all know them Persians like to party, so they was like, cool, yeah, let the Jews party. You know what I mean? Okay, it says, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king and commanded by letters that his wicked device which he devised against the Jews should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. And so that's what ended up happening, man. But the backdrop to that was going on was these Greco-Persian wars. All right, the backdrop to that was these Greco-Persian wars that was going down, and you best to believe that's why when these decrees went out, it went out with fire, man. It wasn't that just Haman and his 10 sons got killed. No, thousands of Edomites was getting destroyed and removed out of their house all across the Persian Empire, man. And this did rile up the Macedonians, man. Okay, now let's read. I just want to touch on this and kind of go into a little bit of the history of what happened. Okay, so the Persian Wars, the date of 499 to 449 BC. Okay, so we was going in on that. Let me see if I can do this real quick. If it has it, Xerxes. Click on Xerxes. Look at Xerxes' reign. Xerxes was on the scene from 518 to 465 BC. Xerxes the Great, right? So now we looking at this time. He was pretty much fighting the Macedonians the whole period of his reign. Okay, he was fighting these Edomites in different nations that was up in Macedon. But chiefly by this time, the Edomites were controlling those regions. Okay? All right, so it says the Greco-Persian Wars were a series of conflicts between the Achaemenid Empire of Persia and Greek city-states that started in 499 BC and lasted until 449. All right, so half a century of war. It says, and this is not even talking about Alexander the Greek that we know about. This is before that. This is before all that. The Persians and the Edomites was always squabbing, man. It was always squabbing. Okay? The collision between the fractious political world of the Greeks and the enormous empire of the Persians began when Cyrus the Great conquered the Greek inhabited region of Ionia in 547 BC. Struggling to rule the independent-minded cities of Ionia, the Persians appointed tyrants to rule each of them. This would prove to be the source of much trouble for the Greek and Persians alike. Now, what is a tyrant? You get that word. A tyrant in the modern English usage of the word is an absolute ruler unrestrained by law or person, or one who has usurped legitimate sovereignty. Okay? It says, often described as a cruel character, a tyrant defends his position by oppressive means, tending to control almost everything in the state. In the original Greek term, however, merely meant an authoritarian sovereign without reference to the character. It just meant somebody who was running shit. Okay? It says bearing no pejorative connotation during the archaic and early classical period. So a person that was called a tyrant wasn't considered like a demeaning term. It was just he's running this area. He's a tyrant. It says, however, it was clearly a negative word to Plato, a Greek philosopher, and on account of the decisive influence of philosophy and politics, its negative connotations only increased, continuing into the Hellenistic period. Let's see. Let's get down into it. The word tyranny is used with many meanings, not only by the Greeks, but throughout the tradition of great books. The Oxford English Dictionary offers alternative definitions to ruler. See, early history. That's what I want. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna come right back. That way we ain't wasting a whole bunch of time. Yeah, it's not really much on this. I'm just gonna read this one part that I wanted to touch on. Where it is in historical forms. It says history has labeled a set of ancient Greek and Sicilian leaders as tyrants. History remembers the rulers, their rises, methods, and ends as the environment in which they rule. Ancient political commentators Plato and Aristotle lived late in the period of many tyrants. They had monarchies and democracies for comparison. The historical definition is best understood from their historical perspective. In ancient Greece, tyrants were influential opportunists that came to power by securing the support of different factions of a demon. The word tyrannos, possibly pre-Greek, Pelasgian or Eastern in origin, didn't carry no ethical censure. It simply referred to anyone, good or bad, who had obtained executive power in a polis or city by unconventional means. Support for tyrants came from growing middle class and from peasants who had no land or were in debt to wealthy landowners. Now, what you see is during the time when the Persians first started taking over that land area of Greece and kicking out all them Japhites, and they were getting all scattered around about, man. They was placing in these puppet leaders, man. You know? And you know there's a good chance, man, if you really went and studied it. I haven't, and try to search it out. Esau probably took it out of the histories, but I wouldn't be surprised that Esau was able to make deals out of the caves and rocks and be placed as tyrants here and there throughout these little cities and be able to build. You know what I'm saying? Now, I want to go down back into this Greco-Persian wars, and I'm going to finish this and then skip down to one more section and get that information. Back here in the second paragraph, it says, in 499 BC, the tyrant Meletius, these damn names, Aristogoras, embarked on an expedition to conquer the islands of Nessos with Persian support. Okay, see? However, the expedition was a debacle, and preempting his dismissal, Aristogoras excited all of the Hellenic Asia Minor into rebellion against the Persian. This was the beginning of the Ionian Revolt, which would last until 493 BC, progressively drawing more regions of Asia Minor into the conflict. Okay? Skipping down, it says the Persian king Darius the Great vowed to have revenge on Athens and Eretria for this act. The revolt continued, with two sides effectively stalemated throughout 497 to 495 BC. In 494 BC, the Persians regrouped and attacked the epicenter of the revolt in Miletus. In the Battle of Lade, the Ionians suffered a decisive defeat and the rebellion collapsed, with the final members being stamped out in the following year. And this is where we see the expansion of this rulership into these regions, right? All right, continuing on. Skip down. It says Darius then began to plan to completely conquer Greece. Okay? But died in 846 BC, and responsibility for the conquest passed to his son Xerxes. In 480 BC, Xerxes personally led the second Persian invasion of Greece with one of the largest ancient armies ever assembled. Victory over the allied Greek states at the famous Battle of Thermopylae allowed the Persians to torch and evacuated Athens and overrun most of Greece. However, while seeking to destroy the combined Greek fleet, the Persians suffered a severe defeat at the Battle of Salamis. The following year, the Confederated Greeks went on the offensive, defeating the Persian army at the Battle of Plateau and ending the invasion of Greece. Okay? And you brothers can go and read about that continuously. You know, they were always going back and forth, man. Okay? I want to read. Man, there's so much in here, bro. I'm going to read the origin of the conflict. I'm going to skip down in it, though. It says the Persian prince Cyrus led a rebellion against the last Median king Astyages in 553 BC. Cyrus was the grandson of Astyages and was supported by part of the Median aristocracy. By 550 BC, the rebellion was over, and Cyrus had emerged victorious, founding the Achaemenid Empire in place of the Median kingdom in the process. Okay? It says, skipping down in this part right here. In the years following their conquest, the Persians found the Ionians difficult to rule. Elsewhere in the empire, Cyrus identified elite native groups such as the priesthood of Judea to help him rule his new subjects. No such group existed in Greek cities at this time. While there was usually an aristocracy, this was inevitably divided in feuding factions. The Persians thus settled for sponsoring a tyrant in each Ionian city, even though this drew them into the Ionians' internal conflicts. Furthermore, certain tyrants might develop an independent streak and have to be replaced. The tyrants themselves faced a difficult task. They had to deflect the worst of their fellow citizens' hatred while staying in favor of the Persians. In the past, Greek states had often been ruled by tyrants, but their form of government was on the decline. Past tyrants had also tended and needed to be strong and able leaders, whereas the rulers appointed by the Persians were simply placemen backed by Persian military, and these tyrants did not need support of the population to do this. So you can see how, because of all the anarchy that's going on in Macedonia at this time, these Amalekites can easily get up in there, create a level of influence, and flourish in these lands, man. It was just like dog eat dog, the way that Esau loves to have it. It was all divided and broken, man. Meanwhile, well, you know, we was chilling. We had it going on, man. We had it popping. Okay. Now you guys can continue reading, but I think you got the message on as far as everything that was going on from the time of Cyrus all the way through the time of Xerxes. You had these wars going on in the area of Macedon. Now, after the Greco-Persian Wars, basically Macedonia went through a big decline. That's why they was having wars amongst themselves called the Peloponnesian Wars. Okay, the Peloponnesian Wars is from 431 to 404 BC, where you had this area of Macedon, Greece, these different islands. They was all warring. Spartans was all up in there, and you had all of this going on. Okay, let me see. All right, I'm gonna read this section here, the prelude. It says, as the preeminent Athenian historian Thucydides wrote in his influential history of the Peloponnesian War, the growth of the power of Athens and the alarm which this inspired Lacedaemon, which our people was up in there, inspired Lacedaemon, made war inevitable. Indeed, the nearly 50 years of Greek history that preceded the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War had been marked by the development of Athens as a major power in the Mediterranean world. Its empire began as a small group of city-states called the Delian League, from the island of Delos, on which they kept their treasury, that came together to ensure that the Greco-Persian wars were truly over. After defeating the Persian invasion of Greece in the year 480 BC, Athens led the coalition of Greek city-states that continued the Greco-Persian wars with attacks on Persian territories in the Aegean and Ionian. What then ensued was a period referred to as the Pentecostalicia, okay, in which Athens increasingly became, in fact, an empire, carrying out an aggressive war against Persia and increasingly dominating other city-states. Athens proceeded to bring under its control all of Greece except for Sparta and its allies, ushering in a period which is known in history as the Athenian Empire. By the number of its formerly independent allies, though the number, make sure I'm reading this right. By the middle of the century, the Persians had been driven from the Aegean and forced to cede control of a vast range of territories to Athens. At the same time, Athens greatly increased its power. A number of its formerly independent allies were reduced over the course of the century and to the status of the tribute-paying subject states of the Delian League. Now, and that just shows you, man, this is like centuries of war that's going on. So when you got the prophet Daniel talking about Greece being able to rise up and take down the Medes and the Romans after that, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. Because at the time when Daniel was a little kid, Babylon was at its height. He watched them go down, and the usher in of a massive empire of the Persians, who no one could see them being taken down. They were huge. And sure enough, all of these things led up to Athens being able and Greece being able to build itself up. And later on, what happened was, as they're going through the Peloponnesian War, you guys can read about the breakdown of peace. Basically, there was a time where they basically battled back the Persians. Okay. And there was a time of just like chill. It was kind of just like different people ruling, kind of things, passing through different people's hands. Okay? And so you read here, the 30 years of peace was first tested in 440 BC when Athens' powerful ally Samos rebelled from its alliance with Athens. The rebels quickly secured the support of the Persian satrap. See? And so you had this always kind of going on between these Edomites and the Persians, man. And we would team up with the Persians here and there and fight, and what was left of the Japhetic people, and it was always wars going on, man. Now, that leads all the way up until the time of Philip of Macedon. Okay? Now, hold on. Let me try to type in Philip of Macedon. Watch this. Philip Macedon. Alexander the Great's pappy. He's called Philip II of Macedon, okay? When you check it, right? Now, Philip of Macedon was on the scene, this is what? 382 BC. Okay, so this is on down the line, bro. Okay? Kingdom of Macedon from 359 BC until his assassination in 336. He was a member of the Argean dynasty of the Macedonian kings, the third son of King Ammonitis III of Macedon, and the father of Alexander the Great and Philip III. Okay? Now, alright, so I'll just read this part just so we can get the backdrop. It says, the rise of Macedon during the reign of Philip II was achieved in part by his reformation of the ancient Macedonian army, establishing the Macedonian phalanx that proved critical in securing victories on the battlefield. After defeating Athens and Thebes in the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC, Philip II led the effort to establish a federation of Greek states known as the League of Corinth, with him as the elected hegemon and commander-in-chief of the planned invasion of the Achaemenid Empire of Persia. See? So you got hundreds of all the way from 550 BC within the time of Cyrus all the way to 338. You had large and small skirmishes and proxy armies going on between Persia, all right, Iran, modern day Iran, between the Persians and the Edomites, man. So the history of Esau and Iran, so-called white man, the Edomites fighting Persia, it's a long history, man. It's a long history. And bro, you can sit here and literally read for days. It's intriguing to me. I like doing these sit downs. It don't bother me. Just to give brothers a small backdrop. And then you can go by yourself and go read about these different battles and what happened. And so you can get a better understanding of the backdrop of what's going on in the scriptures. So when you read about Haman the Agagite, you can't just think, okay, first of all, they're not in Jerusalem. They're in the Persian Empire over in Sushan, okay? You got to understand that there's several different provinces that's being ruled, letters being written, sent out all across the world. And then there's wars going on, man, between Haman's people, these Amalekites that are all up in Macedonia, okay, and the Persians, man. So when you see how Xerxes flipped on Haman, it makes sense. And the Most High did that, man. And he's doing it to this day, man. And so now, when we see that Iranian targets, the U.S. is going to, Iranian conservatives predict limited U.S. strike on Syria. And they feel like they're going to attack Syrian bases. Iranian bases that are in Syria. All right? Which is very possible, because the history of them fighting each other it's a long, drawn-out history. Okay? It's a long, drawn-out history. Okay, so he ends up getting assassinated, and then his son Alexander comes on the scene. And when we read this, 1 Maccabees 1:1, it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, okay, has smitten Darius. Now this Darius is Darius the second. That's not the Darius that came after Cyrus. This is Darius the second, okay? Has smitten Darius, king of Persians and Medes, that reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. You can read about that in the book of Daniel, the history of that little he-goat coming up and taking down the Persian Empire, man. Okay? But basically, the Spirit had it to where the Most High had these Edomites get their shit together, and they was able to take down this Persian Empire, man. Okay, they was able to come battle back after being kind of controlled, ruled, and everything like that. They was able to take down the Persian Empire. All right, you had back and forth. You know, you can keep on reading, keep on going through the time of the Romans, and see that Persia continued to be a vassal even unto the Roman Empire, leading all the way up into, you know, shit. Man, you can go all day. Read about the Ottomans, read about the Mongolian Empire, and all that. Okay, if you want to. But I just wanted to touch on this here in the Bible, just to kind of give brothers the backdrop on things that was going on during that time, man. It was a lot going on. It wasn't just like nigga got mad, you know. It was bigger than that. It was a big geopolitical issue of why Purim was a big deal, how we got saved. We was gonna get destroyed, bro. The Israelites was gonna get completely wiped out, man. Most High had the lot fall on our salvation because he made a promise, of course, but he played it out with different things that was going on during that time. And the same thing is happening even unto this day. There's a backdrop of a lot of proxy wars. Iran and Israel have been fighting through proxy wars I'm talking about the state of Israel. The Edomites that are controlling the state of Israel right now have been fighting Iran through proxy armies, man. Cause Iran has its own proxy army that they fund. You know, they use Hezbollah, they use different Palestinian armies and different other Islamic groups. They fund them, and then the state of Israel have their proxy army, where they use the Ishmaelites to fight against Iranians and try to control different regions and stuff like that. But it's gonna lead to head-to-head conflict. And you had the same thing happen during the time of the Peloponnesian Wars, the Greco-Persian Wars, where they was using different proxies, different tyrants, and different leaders to fight with each other. Even we was involved in it, man. Up in Lacedaemonia, you know, when we was in there in the area of Sparta, we had got caught up in those battles, which, you know, led all the way up until our dealings in what people understand as the Maccabean Wars. So there's tons of history. I just wanted to touch on some history here, man. It might be boring to some. If you don't like it, fuck it. Go to another video. But brothers, you know, that like to go into the histories and kind of see how it plays out in today's times, that's why I did this lesson, man. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakadash. Hey, man, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to Yaki. I'm out there pushing the word of sincerity and truth. Shalom. Oh, Salaki, real quick, I just wanted to read this one last scripture because I wanted to make this point in Ezekiel 35 and 4 when it talks about, and I will turn thee back, all right, Gog and Magog, man, and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army and horses and horsemen, and all them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords. So the Russians basically battling back, along with Turkey and other allies. It says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all of his bands, and the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all of his bands, and many people with thee. Okay, all of these people that were here going through these same little situations that we're reading about, man, all throughout these regions, all throughout these lands of Libya, Ethiopia, okay? All these areas, man, are gonna be brought back again once again to have this great battle, man. And the Most High's been stirring them up for millennia, not just centuries, millennia, man. Millennia of wars going back and forth, man, between these Edomites, between these Elamites, man. And it's beautiful, and it's getting stirred up once again. So I just wanted to make that point real quick, man. It's just heavy because when you go back in history, man, you see how they were always aligned. And you see how Esau always had trade deals going on with Moab, just like you got the West. These so-called white people, they got trade deals even up to this day with China. #1 importer-exporter deals. Hey, that's how it was in the ancient world. That was their #1 trading partner back in the day. Moab. Same thing, man. Ain't nothing new under the sun. The most of this ain't nothing but a rewind, except it's more advanced now. Now fire can totally consume the planet Earth with thermonuclear destruction. Okay? We gonna see it, baby. We gonna see it, man. So I just wanted to add that in there, man. Y'all about your Shai Brakatham. Shalom to all y'all. Keep pushing, man. Shalom.